The latest Nintendo Direct offered a lot of great surprises here and there, and it was difficult for me to simply pick up a top 5, so that's why this time I'll try to analyze in a brief summary every game shown at this fantastic presentation with lots of hints I discovered that you might take a look at. I'm Leo S. Luna, and let's get started. As a general opinion, I really like it. It was an overall 9.0 score for me, pretty much because it showed first and third party games for every type of Switch owner out there. Like, if you see this, and whether you're a casual or gaming enthusiast, you will pretty much have a lot of games coming up in the upcoming 6 months to play with. They even included more news from the upcoming titles like Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope and Bayonetta 3, and yes, lots of RPGs and farming sims, but that's nothing new considering the Switch is becoming a solid platform for those genres. First, let's see what's available now. Radiant Silver Gun and various Day Life are available to get, and Harvestella demo is already out with the first world available to wander. Progress will carry on to the complete game launching on November 4th. Resident Evil Village Cloud has a playable demo that you can try before pre-ordering. Also take a look at our final chapter where I managed to include a list of every game available for pre-order digitally and physically. Now, speaking of first-party titles, there were a lot of surprises, especially the giant elephant in the room that is The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. May 12th is closer than expected, to be honest. Of course, there's probably going to be another direct with lots of insights about the gameplay, but we already have a lot of information to dig in. First, this will be the main Zelda title exclusively developed for the Switch and co-developed by Monolith Soft. You know, those giants making the stunning Xenoblade Chronicles saga. If you're going to hire someone to make an open world game running well on the Switch, that's them for sure. They're been consistently improving their technology to make open world games look good. Currently with the third installment of Xenoblade running at stunningly 1080p and 720p in handheld mode. 6 years do really make the difference in a console life cycle, so I'll say we'll have a more stable Legend of Zelda experience, perhaps with more enemies on the map. Notice the geoglyphs that tell us a bit of the story elements, with a person similar to Zelda or Zelda's mom maybe, surrounded by 7 gems. Would that mean we'll finally see 7 dungeons? Dungeons will be a great addition considering we did not have any in Breath of the Wild, and it will be a wise design choice where close places do load much less elements in real time. Also notice the new ability of sending objects backwards, maybe a great way to go to new floating islands. Also, do we have a plane now? How does it work? Anyways, let me know down in the comments all your theories in regards to Tears of the Kingdom, or is it Tears of the Kingdom? Could be both considering the Kingdom of Hyrule is tearing apart. Speaking of great surprises, Fire Emblem Engage was confirmed as Nokia Engage exclusive. Just kidding. New entry to the tactical RPG series is coming to the Switch with more than 2 years after the release of Three Houses, and as a huge fan of myself and the franchise, I'm so glad that Intelligent System we have a new installment for all of us. This time with a new character that somehow has the ability to summon all heroes in the franchise. According to the press release, the story happens 1,000 years later in the continent of Alos, and 4 kingdoms work together to seal the fell dragon that is about to reawaken. What surprised me the most is how different and detailed the characters are compared to the previous game. It was fantastic to see Marth and Celica with a newly rebranded look. We don't have that much of gameplay mechanics, but so far they seem to look the same as previous modern titles. And the fall IPs, fitness boxes will be based on Fist of the North Star? I mean, don't judge me, I was actually really excited by it. I've always wanted to familiarize myself with Hokuto no Ken saga, and I guess a fitness game will be appropriate. I mean, as long as we have boss fights and great choreography, it is fine by me. Then of course, Nintendo will humbly beg us to renew our Nintendo Switch Online membership in some way by showing new content. This always happens in September. 2 courses of Mario 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass Wave 3 were announced. Merry Mountain and Peach Gardens will be released with a total of 8 courses by holiday 2022. And finally, we have a bunch of N64 games coming up for the expansion pass owners. Games like Pilot Wings, Mario Party Trilogy, 1080 Snowboarding, Excite Bike 64, and the 2 Pokemon Stadium games will come up in the upcoming months, as well as GoldenEye 007 with online multiplayer capability, which I personally think will be just a simple curiosity considering how advanced shooters have become. If you own an Xbox, you can get GoldenEye as well via Xbox Game Pass or Rare Replay. Strangely enough, online multiplayer is exclusive to the Nintendo 64 app. Nintendo Switch Online is a controversial topic already. Nintendo is obviously dealing towards old school fans to make sure people are subscribing to the service. That's why we'll have good old N64 games mentioned in the Direct, as well as expansions of already released games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Animal Crossing, and Splatoon 2. But that begs the questions, will they include other expansions as well? I mean, not many people will play Splatoon 2 now that the third game is out. Will they include that expansion? Is Xenoblade Chronicles 3 expansion pass included? Of course not. They're the ones deciding on what goes in, making it a hard sell to some people. But of course, a lot of investors see the subscription services with different eyes, so there's not much you can do about it. I'm paying the service as a family member because it is way cheaper, and the only way I'm justifying the price. There were a lot of sweet comebacks. Fatal Frame Mask of the Lunar Eclipse will be out for the first time in the West for Switch and other platforms, meaning we'll have the complete Fatal Frame saga available. Originally released on Nintendo Wii in Japan, the game talks about the group traveling to a mystery island to find resolution of an incident happened years ago. I know this game is not new, but I'm pretty sure Koei Tecmo is testing the waters to maybe release a new Fatal Frame in the future. The game will have photo mode, costumes, improved rendering, shadows and light, better cutscenes and character models. We also saw Tales of Symphonia Remastered, an original game released on GameCube, which is a perfect time considering Tales of Arise was the best RPG of 2022. Radiant Silver Gun is an all-time favorite shoot 'em up originally developed by Treasure that is exclusively available on the Switch. If you're a fan of games like Ikaruga, this might be for you. We also have From Mission Games, the first one coming up in November, and the third game confirmed to be in development. Another tactical RPG series, easy to recommend, that some Square fans will remember. One curious fact is that it's being developed by Forever Entertainment, which has been constantly bringing a lot of games on the 6th generation era like House of the Dead and Panzer Dragoon to new generation. Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe is another Nintendo game released not so long ago that it will re-release with a $60 price tag. I'm not a big fan of this, but I'll say Kirby co-op games are fun enough to try them out. This one is 2D side-scrolling like every classic Kirby game, deviating from the Forgotten Land, game released this year, and of course still include minigames and some gimmick to justify the price. Not my jam to be honest, but let me know if you're excited for any of these sweet comebacks. And yes, everybody finally notices the farming adventure games, but not in a good way. Somehow on this Direct the genre felt a bit saturated, and I guess that's a constructive criticism for developers that are trying to serve their games. Family games are nothing new to Nintendo, but when you see a lot of them coming out of the same year, it's difficult to shine. I'll say Exit Games should focus more on the upcoming Broom Factory game and to advertise more the 5th installment, which some people say is the best. You see, the special things about this is you can actually fight as an action RPG and grow a family in a vivid world. Games like Harvestella have a similar gimmick, and probably Story of Seasons: A Wonderful Life is falling behind considering OG devs worked on Harvest Moon. Of all those, one that really brought my attention was Fae Farm, an exclusive to Switch farming sim developed by Phoenix Labs, the studio behind Dauntless, where you can play online co-op up to 4 players on a magical island with living fairies. It has all the tropes of fishing, crafting, farming and building, but you can also fight and use magical abilities to explore and help craft your stuff. It's cool to see a farming game with multiplayer and a charming art direction, so I'll probably try that whenever I'll find people to try it. So there has to be a lot of Stardew Valley fans that will try this one, right? Then we have a lot of game announcements from Square Enix, and if you think about it, there have been a whole lot more games releases from them than ever before. Does it have to do with the sellout of Western studios? I'm not so sure, but I'm glad that other games than Final Fantasy have the focus. Many of them are H2 art directions to 3D oriented action. Some highlights of those: Various Daylife was a game previously released on Apple Arcade that takes a jump onto Switch, PS4 and PS5 and Steam. It's similar to a Banner Saga, where you embark on a journey and prepare your team with resources and items that will help your journey. I don't like how Square Enix sell us the features as tasks to do, like having up to 100 tasks and 20 classes. I mean, we all are already tired of working, and this game is asking me to do all that? Anyway, a new theater rhythm will release with more than 500 songs, all of them divided in different tiers. Aside from Final Fantasy songs, Square Enix will include songs from Live Alive, or Live Alive, Nier, Saga, and Octopath Traveler. New gameplay from Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion was released, which is running pretty well on Switch, and of course, Octopath Traveler 2 was announced for PS4, PS5, Switch, and Steam. This followed the same mechanics, where up to 8 characters will embark on different adventures and eventually cross paths depending on our choices. I'm personally on the fence with this one. The first game was good, but it took time to develop their narrative, and I don't think I'm thrilled to see this all over again. But then again, it sold more than 3 million copies, and I'm glad Square Enix found an audience in this HD 2D genre they started calling this year. Nintendo also announced a lot of third-party games that will be released in the console. You can still check them out on the YouTube channel Timeline, but I'll highlight the ones that caught my attention. Factorio is a cool automated sim where you build machines in order to gather resources and survive on a distant planet. More than surviving, I love the games that teach you how to automate with puzzles, and this one spoke for me. The evolving beat-em up Sifu is one of the favorite games of the year, and it will be released on November, just in time for the Game of the Year season. Tunic will be out this month, and I recommend this game especially for those Link's Awakening fans out there. Also, It Takes Two, which is basically one of the best co-op games out there. A beautiful game that talks about bonds, family, and relationships in a pretty fun and enjoyable way. This game you can play locally on 1 or 2 Switches, or share a friend pass to another friend online in order to play it simultaneously. There's also a third installment of the Telltale series, which has always caught my attention due to good reviews and the outstanding sales Koei Tecmo has gotten over the years. As I mentioned before, Resident Evil 2, 3, 7, and Village are coming to Switch, but via cloud, meaning you will need a solid connectivity to play it. So it is up for you if you want to invest in that rather than playing the digital or physical versions on other platforms. Okay, can I pause here? So it's safe to say the Switch is not capable of running a lot of current gen video games in a suitable way. That's why it is recurring to use cloud technology. So far the games I tried like Control, Hitman 3, and Village run well in handheld mode, but it's still a hard sell to make for people getting to own things, physically or the digital rights at least. I've been investigating, and it seems Ubitus is the company in charge of these cloud ports. They're talking about building a metaverse for companies, so perhaps we'll do something similar to a membership. Speaking about more sports updates, Nintendo Switch Sports will receive a golf minigame at a later date, and Mario Strikers Battle League will have new stadiums and 2 characters, Pauline and Diddy Kong, on the roster. Nintendo Sports titles are always a hard sell for me. You get one of those for $60 each, and Nintendo somehow addresses their existence with smaller updates. This to me felt a bit short. In a day and age where people are obsessed with the metaverse of Fortnite, Rocket League, and Fall Guys, where they can pretty much do similar things for free and hang around with friends, I simply don't see newcomers buying one of these. But let me know what you think. Would you prefer separate sports games or a single metaverse entity that provides all kinds of sports disciplines? Overall, we saw a lot of announcements from all the new stuff, and honestly those are my favorite types of live events because not every Switch owner knows what's coming. So it's important as a company to inform their consumers what gamers are coming up. We now know new aspects of Sparks of Hope, like the inclusion of Rayman and new characters from Bayonetta 3. Lastly, I'm sharing to you my top 5 picks of this Nintendo Direct. I didn't include Tears of the Kingdom because we did not see that much. But don't get me wrong, I'm pretty thrilled to see it, whenever we'll have a Direct dedicated to Zelda. These 5 games we know enough, and I want a little spot for them to shine and for you to consider. But tell me, what were your favorites from this presentation? What did Nintendo miss? I'm Leo S. Luna, and don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to keep up with more content like this. Stay safe.
I